Okay, we're getting started here.
Oh, God.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to 2zeroq, 20 Questions with Interesting People. The origin stories of everyday superheroes in the LGBT community and friends. I am your host, the very handsome Tim Kirk, and our guest today is Diogenes Marchena.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
My
I'm super
pleasure.
excited about this. It's my first podcast.
This is my second.
Oh, okay. Good.
So, as you know, the format is I ask 20 questions of all my guests. 10 of the questions are the same questions I ask everybody, and all the guests get to choose the other 10 questions that I ask them,
Okay.
and we'll go over them and have a good time.
Yeah, sounds great.
So, as I start with everyone, a bit about your background. Where are you originally from, and what was it like?
All right. So I was born in, it was a summer night in Paterson, New Jersey. The year was 1979, July 11th. And yeah, so I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey, also known as Silk City. It was predominantly Italians and Italian Americans were in the area, but with time, a lot of immigrants from Latin America moved in, and yeah, it became very urban, and yeah, that's where I grew up. It became really rough. It's kind of considered, you know, like a lot of rappers are from there.
Love it.
Yeah. We got a lot of people from hip hop that kind of came out from Paterson, and yeah, it was a rough place to live. But I was fortunate because from time to time, our family would always go to Colombia because my parents are Colombian, and so I got to see the rest of the world and saw where, you know, I realized that Paterson wasn't the center of the world, as most people in urban areas feel that, you know, this is it. And I was very fortunate to know that there's a world out there, and
So,
my location didn't define me.
That's awesome. I'm curious as to how did it get to be called Silk City?
Oh, they so there's a lot of factories that would produce fabrics, silk fabrics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I knew somebody who was from Paterson, and he was the only child of a former Irish bachelor. I think his father he became a father at age 62, and he had been a miner. And I didn't know there was any mining in Jersey to do, but apparently there was. And that's interesting. Your take and your viewpoint is quite different than what he told me.
Yeah. Actually, my high school, I went to Don Bosco Technical High School. It was a Catholic all-boys high school, and it was in an old silk factory.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting.
They recently tore it down, so it no longer exists.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, what or which life experience would you say had the greatest impact on you?
Oh, this is a special one because, you know, I don't want to throw my parents under the bus, but it. No, actually, no. Let me switch that. There were two experiences that really changed my life.
Okay.
I feel. Let's go back to how we would, every year we'd go to Colombia, and I remember in grammar school. It was the last year of grammar school, the summer where we graduated, and we're moving on to high school. And my parents took us to Colombia. We went to this farm that my uncle had in this place called Somondoco in Colombia.
It's called Somondoco?
Somondoco. Yes. And it was a ranch, and they had electricity from certain hours a day, running water, but it was cold. And, think about a child living in America going to this place where TV wasn't a big deal, and I just felt like we were slumming it going to this ranch, and I felt really entitled, felt that this was beneath me as a child. And I remember seeing the kids that would live in that ranch, and they were playing with like rocks and a hula hoop, and they were just really happy. And I just kind of looked at that and realized, wow, we really don't need a lot to be happy. You know, living in the U.S., you're conditioned to, you know, be very materialistic, and that kind of was, it opened up my mind. And the last day we were leaving, we had to jump on the back of a pickup truck. Again, I thought it was beneath me.
How old
uh,
were you?
oh, I don't know. So how old from eighth grade to high school? So
13, 14?
around there, yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So we jump. We're going back to the city, going back to Bogota, and I. It's early morning, and there's this huge mountain that we drive by. It's the most beautiful mountain I've ever seen, covered in trees. And it was so gigantic, and I realized how small I was, like physically, compared to this mountain. And I realized how small, and I don't want to say insignificant, but how tiny we are in the grand scheme of things in the universe. So then, if we're just a speck in this big world, imagine, you know, someone talking poorly about you, talking bad about you. There's no physical, you can't even see that in the universe. It's just, it's nothing. And it made me realize that, oh, I needed to be true to myself because, and not take myself so seriously because we're just specks in this world, right? So going back, so I started my first year in high school, and you can imagine going to high school. Everyone's trying to be cool and trying to be something that they're really not. And after that experience, I realized that, oh, putting on airs was ridiculous, you know. And so that really changed my world. That trip. And the second thing that changed my world was my mom. I was 9 years old. She told my brother and I don't want to throw her under the bus, but it really affected me. She told me that she only stayed with my father because of the kids, because of us.
Ooh, really?
And I don't know. At the age of 9, I realized, and I told her straight away, don't blame us for that. Those were your choices.
You told your mother
I
that when
told
you were
my mom
9,
that.
really? That was pretty sage.
And at that point, I realized that at the end of the day, this is my life, and I have to live it, not for anyone else, for myself. Because at the end of the day, I have to face myself and my choices. So if you're unhappy about a situation, you should do something about it. And that's kind of how I live my life.
Okay, that's really cool. Interesting how you had that sage moment with your mother at a
I
child at
don't,
a
you
young
know,
age.
I've always been told I was an old soul.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I just, I remember as being a child, people would talk to me as a child. You know, how you
Yeah.
approach a child in a really high pitched voice and try to
Sing-songy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would always look at adults and ask them, why are you talking to me like that? You know, so yeah, I guess I'm a bit of an old soul. One of my favorite stories is my nephew walked in. He was probably like 6 or so. He walks into the room and just starts spinning around as children do.
Mm-hmm. Get himself dizzy.
Got himself dizzy. And then he stares at me. He looks at me to see my response. And I look at him and I'm like, that was stupid. Why'd you do that? Now you're dizzy. And then my brother had to point out, he's a child. Right?
They like to do that.
But yeah, and you know, good on them. Good on them for doing that.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. Now, this is something that people think about, and I don't know how you answer, but what would you say is your most noteworthy achievement?
My most noteworthy achievement. Well, you know, I think it was, you know, being a person coming from like an urban area, coming from Paterson, New Jersey. I think I was very lucky because at the time, media was there was this they would glorify people trying to get out of a ghetto environment, and there was a lot of focus on higher learning and trying to get out and trying to better yourself. And so I was lucky to be in that time. Um, so after high school, went to college. Um, really didn't have any direction of where I was going. Um, I found sociology as something exciting because I found it interesting to see why people do what they do. Just going back, yeah. So I grew up in an urban area in ghetto Paterson, and I was very fortunate because I ended up finishing high school, going to college. I was a sociology major, as I mentioned, because I was fascinated with the idea of, or just figuring out why people do what they do. And halfway through my college career, a friend asked me what I wanted to do in life. And there was just someone actually asked me, well, what do you want to do? And what I said was, and I don't know why I wasn't embarrassed by it, but when I was in college, I said I want to work for MTV because I love music videos. I love music. I think music really helped me uh, being in uh, in Paterson, New Jersey, because I would listen to Depeche Mode,
Okay.
different types of music that wasn't necessarily hip hop and R&B, which was kind of considered the staple in that area.
Sure.
Um, I remember going, like I said, going to Columbia and listening to what my cousins were listening to, and it was kind of pop and rock, and it was just not what people listen to in in Paterson. So I love music videos, and I thought it was a great way of marketing your song, but using it as an art piece, making saying or showing what you meant as an artist when you created the song. So so I told my friend, yeah, I want to work for MTV, and they laughed at me. They're like, because think about it, like, why a sociology major? Why would you?
Well, do something
What,
so far as a field.
yeah, and it just felt so unattainable. And so then I realized, oh, how can I change my education so that I could get a job in the entertainment industry? So I started taking media-based classes that had to do with sociology and sociology of film. Um, I remember taking a great course um, on queer culture in movies.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just fascinating. So I was very fortunate because there was a study abroad program in London, and they had a lot of sociology courses, but they also had theater courses, media courses in the UK. So I thought it was a perfect marriage of what I was studying and how I could parlay it to media studies. And yeah, so I went to Thames Valley in London, studied abroad, and um I actually met a producer for MTV UK at the
Really?
bar.
I never knew you went to London.
Yeah,
And then I didn't know that there was anything
yeah,
there.
and we were talking about music videos because I had a passion for it. I was talking about Bjork videos and how out there they were and how it connected with the music, and after the conversation, she said, "Oh, you really enjoy this," and she asked me, "Would you consider doing an internship at MTV?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "Yes, absolutely."
Sure.
Absolutely. And so she hooked me up with one of her coworkers and friends that lived that was based in New York, and I interned at MTV. Um, and before I even finished my my college career, they offered me a position
Wow.
as a freelance production assistant. but I needed one course left. Like I think it was 4 credits to finish college. And I was thinking of just throwing it all away. But I ended up talking to the department head, and I was just really honest with him. I said, "Listen, I found my ideal job. I could care less about sociology. How can I
Finish this.
how can I finish this?" And he goes, "Well, there's sociology in everything you do. So tell me how you could use sociology in the entertainment industry, and write me a paper on it, and we'll discuss it." And
Really?
he basically made a course for me, and I would, write papers, and he would kind of look over it, and I got my 4 credits, and I graduated.
Wow, that's freaking
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
That's fantastic. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
That's
So
that's great.
the achievement was, I think the achievement was being honest with myself on what I wanted to do with my life, or what I really wanted, and putting it out there in the universe, just vocalizing it, and then actually doing it. I don't think it was just because of it wasn't because I willed it, but I'm proud that it happened, and yeah, it catapulted me into working in media and entertainment, which I love doing. And I think I was very fortunate because when you're young, you have this idea that the world, and you have all the answers,
Yeah.
and it's that cockiness of someone who's young, who has it all figured out. And I was very lucky to ride on that, and be successful. And I feel like I need to remind myself that, yeah, I'm good enough. Sometimes you have to look back and see the work you've done, and say, look at what I've accomplished. Yeah. I mean, I would never have thought that I'd work in at Viacom or HBO or NBC Universal. Think about it. Poor, I wouldn't say poor, but middle class, um, Latino gay boy in Paterson, New Jersey.
Well, my mom was from Ireland, and she came over here. She didn't know anybody,
Yeah,
and she used to say all the time, "Take chances,"
yeah,
because there's no point in not taking chances. You can do a safe bet to keep things going, but take that chance. Take a chance. You never know, and even if it seems it's against you, just the experience of knowing how to do it the next time, or even
yep.
if you do well, you're prepared. You're better prepared to face other hurdles, and you understand. You also get to understand people from not succeeding. You get to read people better, because so many people are so used to doing everything in these increments that only give them what they want,
Right.
and they can't read other people. They can't understand the language and the scenario that you're involved in, because they're not thrust upon it. And when it does happen, they constantly keep on reinterpreting it and listening for the good stuff and exclude all the other stuff. And the other stuff, the good stuff, is really just they're just sugarcoating
Right.
to tell you that you're not going to. And they think of it a different way. You have to get used to the idea that sometimes it's just not going to be great, or
Yeah.
you had a setback, or you just didn't succeed this time. But the experience gives you much more, breadth and fortitude.
Right. I think Oprah said it. Oprah said something. I know I'm paraphrasing, but there's no mistakes in your life. It's leading you where you need to be. If you run into a rough patch, that's something that you need to face so that you could move on.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely
yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
I definitely believe it. Okay, so now the next question is the biggest personal challenge you have faced. Is it a personal injury, a seemingly overwhelming task, a personal or professional goal, a difficult situation you had to overcome, something? What was the biggest personal challenge you've had to face?
Biggest personal challenge. Oh, that's. Should I name names? How about this? I'll be vague.
Okay.
I worked for a certain movie company with a certain movie mogul
Yes.
who was a Difficult personality. That company no longer exists.
Yes.
And yeah, working there was really rough. It was after I worked at Viacom, and the movie industry is well, in that situation. I don't want to say the movie industry in general is like this, but in that scenario where I worked in this movie company, no one really helped anyone. Everyone was kind of just looking out for themselves. Everyone was a movie expert,
Whether
and
or so they said.
yes, exactly.
Right.
And everyone was an aspiring producer or aspiring director, and I went in because oh, let's try this out. And I like entertainment and I love movies, so let's see what it's all about. Um, and there I dealt with difficult personalities where it's it's believing the hype. It's drinking the Kool Aid. Everyone, it was my Devil Wears Prada moment,
Okay.
right? Where
Sure.
everyone was, this is amazing. This is your life. And at first I went in thinking, oh, this isn't my life. Because I had other work experience and I wasn't straight out of college. And I thought I was, I don't want to say better than it, but yeah, I was an assistant, uh, admin assistant. And again, I thought, oh, I'm better than this. But admin assistants, that they're hard workers
Yeah.
dealing with people, and I feel that a lot of people look down at admin assistants. No, that is, you have to be a specific type of person that is really organized, and I have so much respect for admins because yeah, I was doing the role, and just a lot of difficult personalities, and I'd have to, it was working 24 hours a day. After work I'd go and have drinks with my friend, and I get a phone call from my boss saying that this movie exec needed to see these dailies or the screener, and I needed to run to the office and pick it up and deliver it. And I was drunk. And how can you tell your boss, I'm drunk, right? But I was still trying to live my life. But yeah, I'd have to sober up and go to the office, get that tape, and make sure it's delivered. And I think the worst was I was working a month straight. I was not seeing family. I wasn't seeing friends. I would kind of cut things off, and I because I believed the hype. I was I was saying, oh, this is important. This is important, and we had to find a way to get a DVD of a movie onto a yacht in the Mediterranean, and
From New York.
from New York, and I was saying, oh, can we? This is before. Well, no, we had video, right? We had files, and I was saying, hey, can't we just send them a file? Executives, they like their formats. So
Very particular.
Yep. So they wanted a DVD, and I basically sent a file over to my contacts in Italy, and they created DVDs, and I had to work with the executive assistants to make sure we can get a package airlifted and airdropped from a helicopter to a yacht in the Mediterranean. And just running circles, and I realized my boss at the end of the day thanked me, and he normally would never thank anyone. He said I did a good job, and I realized this isn't worth it.
No.
This is not worth it, and I gave my 2 weeks notice. So I was traumatized because in that company you had to make sure the phone was always answered. So when I went to my next job, the phone would ring, and I'd have like PSD. Like I would freak out and I would look at my coworkers and say, "Can you answer that?" And someone had to tell me that's what voicemail's for. And I'm like, "You're right. You're right." So yeah, that was the most
It's kind of funny. Before this was such a prevalent thing, I worked a few places, and the rule was always you never let it go past the third ring, and you
Oh
always answer
my.
it. And then I went to work with people, and a load of people who were straight out of college, and
Yeah.
they were all guys who it was like a contest of the wills. The one who flinches answers the phone. Well, guys, no, we actually do have to answer the
Right.
phone.
Yeah.
Your job is relying on you picking up and talking to people, and that was something that's kind of funny
Right.
because that was always a thing. It was like pick up the phone, and you also had to identify yourself first.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
There's an art form. There's
Right, and that's something that it's just that's one of those weird things. So I reach on that one. I definitely get that.
Yeah, but I feel like that's going away, right? Because of technology
And texting, and people don't
Text,
talk on the
yeah,
phone unless
people-
they have to.
and people are annoyed when they get a phone call.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad because I miss interacting with people and having conversations.
How about the video phones? You've had a video phone, and I get used to the idea of a video phone, and also turning the camera off for some people I don't want to talk to. I want them to see me.
Right.
You know, that changed the dynamic that I just never imagined, and also people, just an entire generation of people, they just don't talk on the phone.
No,
the phone
they
is
don't.
just a text. It's got to be an emergency to be on the phone,
Yeah.
or it's a video call that they're doing, whether it's Skype or
Right.
FaceTime or something like that. But just a regular telephone call is just unheard of. I see people on conference calls or meetings, and they've got the earbuds, and they're walking down the street, and you can hear them talking business slang.
Yeah.
But those are the only. No one just talks to somebody on the phone,
Right.
unless I talk to Bruce because I'm shopping and I'm picking something up. Do we need this? You know, and we interact. Plus, also we're definitely of a different generation.
Right. Yeah.
Gary was giving me a hard time for being a boomer,
Right.
blaming me for everything that ever happened in the world because we're part of the most evil generation.
Right.
I think we are, but
Yeah.
but we come from that. Yeah, we are. And we come from that generation where you talk on the phone. We were really laughing about knowing people that I went to college with, who they were such strident lefties or what we call progressives now, and they were going to be the conscience and the soul of people, and they turn out to be just these cold-blooded Machiavellian usurpers who they live for making money, and people and life is cheap to them, and we just can't understand how they made that disconnection and leap into that different, completely went to the dark side.
Yeah.
And it's all money. I couldn't understand it. But we're the only people who get on the phone. Everyone else doesn't talk anymore,
Right.
which is a strange thing. And they get a little annoyed at the fact that they actually have to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think people hide behind the screens. They hide behind technology because it's easier rather than looking someone in the eye and saying how you feel, or getting an attitude, or dealing with emotions.
And you don't have to answer immediately.
Yep.
You can take 15
Which,
minutes.
in retrospect, that could be a good thing.
Yeah.
Being Latino, my heart's on the sleeve, and I'm very hot-tempered sometimes. And
You're a pretty cool cucumber.
I am. But when it comes to emotions, I'm always kind of like I react immediately because I don't know. Feelings are important. I feel like a lot of people kind of forget that. So I'll respond immediately, but it's usually from a place of insecurity and fear, right? And just attacking back or clapping back, as the kids say.
And then the adults say, "You flipped the script." What the heck is that supposed to mean? What does that mean?
But I think it's good to take a couple minutes to assess how you feel before you give a response, and
absolutely.
So maybe there are some pluses in delayed communication.
What was I was saying? I'd said this about something else that people think that the stream of consciousness is just compelling, and it was, I guess, something to do with maybe V-blogging or something. I said nobody is that interesting.
Right.
I mean, you compress yourself, and let's do a digest, and then you'll have something. You can come up with very clever things to say, but spontaneity is usually so, that's something that people are in something that they focused on, and they're shining for that brief amount of time. But to think that you're going to be some spontaneously witty, insightful, profoundly, divinely graceful, nobody is. There isn't anybody who is that.
And I think we're seeing that recently, like with Kanye West, and his views on the presidency and on slavery and things like that, where there's this idea of freedom of speech, but I think you need to formulate your ideas and your thoughts before you even
give them a chance to rumble around inside your head.
Think about it before you actually say it. And I think because we have social media where we can distribute our thoughts immediately in seconds, and there's this idea of it's freedom of speech and it's how I feel, but formulate your idea, formulate your how you feel about things, because I feel that some people just say the first thing that pops into their mind, and there should be a train of thought.
You may have freedom of speech, but there are consequences
Absolutely,
for what you're saying.
Yeah.
You can't just say something, and you don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Even if it's not illegal, and that's not the criteria. It's the fact that the impact you have on somebody, you're hurting someone's feelings. And do you want your feelings hurt? Or you're insulting someone's intellect, or you're saying something that's patently ignorant, and other people refute that, and now you've demeaned and diminished yourself because you didn't consider. And we all do this. We're all guilty of this, but just the idea that maybe you want to think about it just before you,
especially if you're going to
share it with everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be out there, and the world is watching, and
if they can catch fire, and it could be the worst thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
Some people think that it's all good. It's not all good.
And I feel
that's why there's the word bad.
Yes. And I feel that I should have said this in the beginning. I think my answers today and where I'm coming from is how I am in this moment of time.
That's right.
Right? Because 5 years from now, will I have the same thoughts? Will I have no? Like, we all evolve, we all change, and
just like your body, just like your sense of style.
Well, my body's been the same since I've been
a paragon,
right? Since I was 19. No, I still have the body of a 19-year-old. No, I don't. But someone told me this, and I really appreciated that. You should appreciate who you are now, and look back at the photos of yesteryear.
Yeah.
Because, you think you look horrible, or you're out of shape, or you have, like, love handles today. You look back at your photos 5 years from now, and you're going to look, and you're going to say, oh my God, I was amazing. I was so skinny. I was so good. So appreciate who you are today.
Yeah.
Because I remember being 19 and thinking, I wish I had more muscles, or if I was thinner, and I look back and I say, oh my goodness, I was fine. So love yourself. I think is the yes, try to be healthy and try to better yourself, but don't do it because of other people.
Well, I think it's funny because being gay and
what?
Yes, homosexual. I am.
You're what?
I am a known homosexual. The entire daddy bear culture, the daddy thing surprised me. It still surprises me because it happens pretty frequently.
I feel it's really trendy now.
For seeing younger guys approaching me on the street, somebody on 23rd Street for some reason between 7th and 9th Avenue in the afternoons, there's always somebody cruising for a daddy.
Oh, do people still cruise? That's the thing.
It's really funny, and I'm just
this.
Oblivious to this, and I realize, and they're saying, and I'm getting smiles, or people, doing the cruise, and I'm going, oh, wow, and they're young guys, and I always thought that they gave it up with Grindr, but they're going for a daddy, which is really funny too. So, I think of myself as being someone you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole because you're 30 years younger than me, and all that. And I'm like, well, what do you know? And I'm like, I just shake my head and go, oh yeah, like once I realize what's going on, because I'm not looking for it. But then you get the thing with the guys, the bears who pull up their shirt to show you their gut. Has that happened to you?
No, I didn't realize that.
This is something that I didn't have any idea. Now, this is about a year ago. I had a little bit less of a gut, and I was coming back from the gym. I was a little more pumped, and I'm walking down 23rd Street. I used to take the subway up to East 58th from the Lex. So I'm walking back home here, and a guy who's a definitely bear daddy.
Right.
Got a woofy, walrusy mustache and a cap.
Right.
And he walks up to me, and he's got the big daddy gut, bear gut. He walks up to me, he stands, and he just pulls up his shirt to show me his belly.
Amazing.
And I was like, what is this? And I started tweeting, and there's a guy I know who I used to work with who's straight, and he lives in Seattle. And he lived in New York while his wife was getting her master's, and he's an expert on vintage Bordeaux's. So he worked for Morel when I worked for Morel, and he's a good guy. We became friends. But he's one of those guys who's got the mustache wax, and he's very particular about certain things. So he looks like a metrosexual bear, even though he's straight. But he's telling me it happens to me all the time because they mistake him for a bear.
Because it's facial hair.
And I didn't know anything. And he's also furry. He's got a furry chest.
Right.
But but he's like big into Prada and stuff like this. And you're straight.
Love that.
He's mistaken for a bear, he's a bear, but he's a straight bear.
So here's the thing, right? I have such love for bear culture because growing up, I always kind of had facial hair. I always had a mustache or beard or goatee, and I would hang out I'd go to twin parties in Chelsea, and I go to all these parties where I never felt I never felt like I fit in because I didn't look like the people I was going to parties with. And I had friends who would say, "Oh, I have some gay friends that you should meet," and they would introduce me, and automatically the guys would just look at me, and maybe they didn't find me attractive, but the idea was, I just want to be friends. But if I didn't look like them, I didn't fit the mold. I wasn't a Broadway gay.
Okay, I understand the shallow superficiality of being. I wouldn't say warmly embraced, but it was like, boy, it was so much more comfortable to go into like the leather bear environment. And when I was 30 years old, I was like, this is where I should be.
Sweet, sweet men. No attitude.
No.
Very inclusive. Yes. And it was great because they looked at me and they're like, well, you're not one of us, but
got cub potential.
Yeah, there's like cub potential there, but there was a sense of humor, that when I was younger I didn't think would match the exterior, right? Because you look at these burly guys and you think this hyper-sexualized, hyper-masculine view. And when you got to know them, they were friendly and they were funny.
Well-read, sing opera.
Yeah.
They can cook. They have a number of other different interests that don't have anything to do with making me look better or getting me
not laid. To frown upon people who love like pop music, because I love pop music, or fashion.
But you can't exclude everybody else just because they're not you.
Correct. And so definitely love bears, and I love that they allowed me to hang out with them.
You thrive. You grow.
Totally.
You explored it.
And I love that, going back to those men that lift their shirts to show their guts, because they're proud of themselves and
very comfortable with who they are.
And that's amazing. And I wish everyone could be like that.
Yeah, me too.
I think I remember going on a date one day and I felt frumpy. I felt fat, and I went on a date with this tall, skinny guy, and I felt really insecure. And the guy grabs my belly, and he's like, "Oh, this is hot. I find this really attractive." And he made me feel so attractive.
Yeah, okay.
And it made me realize, you know what? There will be someone out there that will buy what you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
And so you shouldn't feel less than or feel uncomfortable. That's who you are. And if someone appreciates that, God bless.
And if you go into the environment, when you first go into the environment, and all you see is people who are highly fashionable and they're all either muscle queens or they're skinny and they're slinky and they look sexy. You think that's what you can only strive to do.
Right.
You don't think that there is a room for you until you explore a little more and you find out, well, this is the first shot. You just went to the first stage, and maybe that is good for you, maybe it isn't, but there's a lot more. And as you get older, of course, you have to, you can't be Jack McFarland. You're gonna have to be, you're gonna grow into something else.
But then that being said, I do appreciate someone who takes a lot of care of themselves, and there's a respect where it's, you worked out.
There's a discipline, and then there's dedication. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's just accepting everyone for who they are, right? And
that's the idea, right?
Yeah, and I think people forget that. We get stuck with the outward beauty, and or what society tells us what's beautiful.
I thought that the thing that bugged me when I first came out was people spend so much time talking about how they have been shunned and shunted and pushed to the fringes of society, and they're excluded and they're disliked. I said, well, this is so rampant within the community. We're doing the exact same thing to each other that other people were doing to us. Why can't we be nicer to each other? And you're going to find plenty of people nice. You just happen to see those because those are the people you meet when you're insecure and alone, and you're like, yeah, but you have to move past them. Right. Well, if you want to, but I mean, you can't, like those predatory people who first come into contact with your life, or the people who aren't necessarily good for you that you can hang out with. They'll give you a footing, but you realize, no, maybe there's more to it, and there is more to it, and you find that there is, and that's one of the things that you is part of your growth as especially as a gay man. You definitely need to go, oh, geez, there's so many more other people. It may not be my cup of tea.
And I think that's important. It may not be my cup of tea, right? I always, if someone flirts with me or is, trying to talk to me in a certain way, and I may not find them attractive for myself, not saying that they aren't attractive, just not my cup of tea. There's no need to be rude about it. No. And actually, I'm usually flattered if someone shows interest, and so I'm very welcoming. Like, oh, thank you. Like I'm always flattered, and just because there isn't this like sexual connection doesn't mean you can't be friendly or you can't be friends or just engage in a conversation. That's how you meet people. And I think gay society tells us that we have to be on the prowl for the hottest or the someone we find sexually attractive, and there's more in life than just that.
It's funny too, because some of the nicest people and the best people that I know, I got to know them exclusive of sexual attraction, and they're gay. And those people have taught me a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
and they helped me grow, and they themselves are so much more interesting than so many other people who are chasing the phantom of youth and beauty.
Right.
Like, you're beautiful on the inside, and youth is something that you're lucky to. We like to prolong as much as possible, right, and try to age as well as we can, which is one thing that's really great. But you can't expect that to be.
Honestly, that's funny, right? Because I'm the opposite. I can't wait till I have all these wrinkles, and I can't wait till I have gray hair.
But you want to grow old gracefully, don't
gracefully,
you?
Of course.
And you don't want to look a fool.
Well, no.
But you do want to look good growing old.
Absolutely, sure. I think everyone does.
Sure.
But yeah, I look forward to that. So I could be if someone looks at me and goes, "Oh, that daddy's hot," right? Absolutely. I've lived life and I had experiences, and I think you see that on a person's face. So
Gary was telling me a story last night. It was really funny. He was telling me, he says, after I heard your stories 3 times, 3 different ways, depending on who you were telling it to, all of a sudden they became my stories, and I started telling them.
Oh, that's funny. Because whenever I tell a story, I usually retell a story, I usually do it verbatim.
Okay.
And God bless my friends and family, because they have to hear it
over and over
again. They go, here we go.
I tell the stories, but I have, we all have good stories. We have good stories, especially because we're in this community, And largely, we don't hit the radar of other people except for what their frame of references is usually something like Modern Family or something that's very easy for them to digest. And there's a lot of stuff that we take for granted. We just take it in stride that is so shocking. I mean, it's not just because it's sexual, it's overtly sexual, but it's subject matter of just the fact that maybe you'll go see somebody who's a drag queen who's saying things that are just so outrageously inappropriate for. You couldn't say that in front of the people with 7-year-olds who are coming,
Right.
But as adults who all get it, you laugh, and these are things that just give you so much more of a body, and you have all these stories you can tell that it just matter of fact to you, but other people are they can't believe it, and they're so excited when you tell them these things. Like, yeah, it's just like, we know. I've known it for years, and they go, really? Yeah, we all know.
I used to DJ in the Lower East Side. I started DJing when I got let go from Viacom years back, thanks to some friends that worked at the Phoenix.
Phoenix, I think that's where it was.
Phoenix Bar, yeah. And I had the opportunity to DJ a lot in the East Village, and I got to become friends. I became friends with a couple of drag queens, and they were all lovely. I remember seeing my first drag queen, and that was, and I'm going to date myself here. It was at the Roxy. Roxy was the big,
I remember,
like danceteria type environment. And
who's hurt himself in the Roxy?
Right. I guess there are big gay like dance clubs like that, but they're usually parties, right? They're not.
Yeah, they're not like they used to be.
They used to be, yeah.
Like Club USA or the Limelight,
right?
Or Palladium, those are all gone. It was a thing of the past.
And it was Kevin Albiance, and he or she walked by me, and it was the first time I ever saw a drag queen, and I was petrified. I was petrified because it was like an entity just floating amongst the people, because it was something I never saw before. And growing up in a super machismo environment where men were men, and it was looked down upon to be feminine, and seeing someone just being so proud and glamorous was something I needed to digest, because I've never saw that before, and didn't know how to feel about it until going to more gay clubs and going to bars and interacting with drag queens. And
then the expectation is you do take it in stride, you do incorporate it, as other people will go back to, they go, I went to this one place one time and there was this guy dressing, and they'll talk about it for years.
Absolutely.
And you just
and I think it's something where this hyper masculine approach to, I guess, being a man, society has told us to do, is something that I feel bored of, or I hate when guys are like mask for mask men.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
It's just kind of like I don't want to say I was overtly gay growing up, because a lot of people in high school didn't know, and I never really came out to anyone in high school, and so I never really had the issues of being bullied or anyone kind of harassing me for being gay. So I look at boys or men that are effeminate, and I think they're stronger than people who pass as straight, because they are who they are, and they always have been, and they would have to fight. And
I can't agree with you more.
Yeah, and so I love a feminine boy and a feminine man.
You are brave.
Yeah,
and you
they're
have to be
stronger
tough.
Than what society tells us a masculine, quote unquote, masculine guy is.
Two quick stories on this. One was when we first on our honeymoon, when we married each other in Provincetown in 1991 to each other, long before you get married, we decided to marry each other. we pledged our love to each other. So.
You and Bruce.
Yes.
Not us.
And we stayed at a place called the Willows, which is a guest house. They had little cabins, and we stayed at Tyrone Powers, the one he used to go to all the time, and he was never out, And the guy who owned the place, he was saying things about gay people who are out, who can't help it. They're out from hatching. No, they're never going to fool anybody. They're not going to try and fool anybody. They're a raving queen, and they're going to be a queen their whole life. Everybody knows who they were, and we always had those kids when we were in school, and they were called the gay kid or the gay, we knew them. And I said, yes, that's right. They're out from hatching, and those are the toughest people because they stand up first for everybody. But I remember when I first started going out to bars and meeting people, the nicest people who were the most caring were all the queeniest guys. Yes. And those were the guys who gave you the helping hand. They told you, don't worry about him, he's a bitch. That's that type of stuff. Yeah. You go, oh, and they give you peace of mind. And they encourage you to be who you were because they could not help but be who they were. They were never going to talk about the game and all that. They would never do that. It would never even occur to them. Plus, they knew they could never get away with it. And they didn't want to. They were proud of who they were. Yeah. And they gave me so much more strength, personal strength, just because, wow, you just are who you are. And that's all that, you were not even going to know. That you just dispense with all that. It's not even the weight on your shoulders. It was never even going to be an issue for you. And you had so much more personal fortitude just by being who you are.
And I think it's everyone's insecurities that they project onto other people, right? Because I remember when I started being more out in the workplace and things like that, and I always felt that, oh, I'm not that stereotype. I'm not just my boy came in.
But to other people.
Right. But in my mind, it was like, oh, I'm not. And I kind of shunned it, right? And I just didn't want to be this stereotype, right? And I realized that if you try to shun this idea of what being gay is, you miss out on living life, and the stereotypes is what makes us special as gay men. It makes us fun. It makes us approachable.
I'd say attributes, not stereotypes. Because,
well, right, exactly. They're attributes. They're not stereotypes, and we should embrace them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
those guys helped me so much, and I will say, when I was getting to the point where I wanted to actually have relationships with other people as opposed to just finding someone to get off with.
Right.
Those guys were so much more sensual. They taught me how to kiss.
Yes.
They also, they're not all bottoms. Right. So you go talking with a guy who was take charge physically. And don't have any of the earmarks of just some tough guy who you thought you were supposed to be, and it doesn't make a difference. Their entire sensuality was so much more well developed, at an earlier age, and they were transmitting this to you, and I got so much more of that from those guys.
Yeah.
And plus, they were better dressed, and they were more engaging, and they would have a conversation.
Right.
It wasn't just about stupid stuff until you went someplace.
Right.
What do you know? I could actually talk to someone, and then it would evolve into, and if you wanted to carry on to something a little bit more romantic, or you could. But those guys taught me more than anybody else.
And there's this idea of gay men wanting or finding straight men attractive. And I mean,
in a way, yeah.
In a way, fine. But for me, it's the complete opposite. It's kind of rule number one with me is always, I'm not into you if you're not into me.
Yeah. Okay.
I always find it fascinating that most people usually like people who don't like them. So there's that chase where I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, if you find me attractive, oh, we have something in common, or we could talk about something. Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
So the idea of a straight man, that person isn't attractive. They don't find me attractive. So why would I even talk to them? Because, well, not talk to them as in a sexual way, sort of.
Okay, so now the next question is, and it's the cliche question, but everybody everybody has something that they do. But what is it? What that drives you? That gets you up in the morning? What's your motivation? Like on a day-to-day basis, what's the thing that you get up? You have a sense of optimism that something's going to happen today, or that you have to do something because you're obliged to, or what is it? The thing that makes you get up and go every day.
Oh, I think it's uncertainty. I I see life as an adventure, so it's kind of I wake up and think, oh, what's gonna happen today? You know,
Okay.
like what adventures or misadventures will I face today? So it's that excitement of not knowing. In the past, it was something I feel like I used to be a control freak, and I needed to know what the next step was. And I think my last job at NBC, when I started doing technology, I thought I loved the idea of emerging media and with technology and what's new and not knowing how to do something and figuring it out. So waking up in the morning, it's kind of what drives me is what am I going to learn today, or what adversities am I going to face, and let's see how I handle it. So it's kind of that excitement of it's like a puzzle, like, oh, how am I going to solve it? What's next? So that kind of drives me every morning.
I think possibility is one of those things. Like,
Yeah.
if you're stuck in a rut, what's possible? What the possibility of doing something to change your life or to enhance your life or improve or something? You've done something that, or also making a contribution somewhere
Yeah.
to do something that is better than just sitting still. I think that the thing that I think that's death to me anyway. Just remaining inert or just staying in place. Inertia. That's the worst thing to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. But some people, they live on that, and that's what gets them.
Well,
And
I think
that's not for me though.
It's fear, right? It's fear. They want to know what's coming up next, so that there's no.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But they want reassurance on everything.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantees, and because my mom always said take chances,
Yeah.
and it was one of the best things. When you said if you're into me, I'm into you. That the best piece of advice I ever got in my life was from another gay man when I was I think I was 32 or 33. I was trying to get involved with some nonprofits and help people. I wanted to be like a big brother for a gay big brother type of thing. And I was met with complete skepticism. And I was going to all these places, and I kept on trying. And I talked to this guy, and he just looked at me and he said, "Tim, don't believe in anybody who doesn't believe in you."
Yeah.
And it's a double negative, but it was the best piece of advice I ever got in my life.
Absolutely.
Don't believe in anybody who doesn't believe in you. If there's a rule that changes who you fundamentally are in order for you to belong to something, or you have to jump through a series of hoops that takes you so far away from who you really are, then it's not worth it.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any conditions about who you are. All it is you, and then adding on to it, but not changing or like obstructing or hiding or like putting that. That's not the way to be.
Unless it makes you a better person, right? Because I feel like there's that, when people say, "Oh, I don't care what people think about me," but if everyone's right and you're wrong, like if they're trying to help you to become a better person, that you know what I mean? Like,
but you have to believe in yourself.
Right.
This is you're not doing something to get away with something,
right? I mean,
or to skid down the path because you're not putting any effort into it.
Totally.
If you're trying to do something, you want to be somebody, and you want to make you can't possibly get a sense of satisfaction and motivation if you can't be who you are. And some people, they're well-known politicians who they hide who they are and they get caught doing something, and that's you're paying a really big price for that. But in the first place, don't believe in anybody who doesn't believe in you. And that was one of those things that stuck with me, and that's been my mantra for about like 25 years.
Yes.
So here's the next question.
Sure.
What's the first thing you want to come to people's minds when they think of you?
God, he's attractive. No, I'm joking. No, maybe. I don't know. No, I think... No. I think I want people to think that I'm helpful and friendly. Sometimes I have a look on my face that some people say I don't seem approachable because I'm usually thinking about something else, or I seem angry. But yeah, a helpful friend.
Okay.
That's what I want people to think of me.
Garrett said he wanted people to think that he was considerate.
Yeah, yeah. I,
I always say I want people to think of me as being genuine.
oh my god, that is one of the most. Can I change my answer to
Sure, you can
genuine?
change the
Yes,
genuine. After
absolutely.
marking that all out.
No, I think
I'm for real.
helpful and genuine. I think there's nothing worse than not being genuine. Yeah. So no, I think no, not genuine because I do put on airs and sometimes
Okay,
it's for the better good, right? Like you yeah, because sometimes being genuine, yeah, I take it back. I don't want to be genuine because sometimes I may not like someone, and I don't want that person to feel bad.
well, you don't have to be genuine. You don't have to. You don't have to overshare.
Right. Exactly.
But I think I'm for real when people, and that's this is who I am.
Right.
And I'm not trying to put on airs. I'm also not trying to hide anything.
Right.
Because I jettisoned all that stuff a long time ago, and there's no way I'm going to put that back on my shoulders.
Right.
So being who you are is the best possible thing.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's the ethical side of me that thinks like, oh, for the greater good.
So the next question is, and this is something that other people have, it should be a pretty easy answer because it's not something that takes a lot to think of and say a lot. But what is your Zen?
Oh, my Zen is a dark, cloudy day that's hopefully rainy. Listening to a sad love song of heartache and pain, and drinking, either having soup or a hot chocolate or a hot tea, and just really feeling sad. I love a moody, sad R&B song on a cloudy day.
It's so funny. That's a
Because
similar answer.
I think, what's that? A similar answer?
Yes, it's the rainy days where you get to be contemplative. And like people, that's a Zen thing for a lot of people.
I think a lot of people feel that society tells us that we should be happy all the time. And, I love
American
that.
Society says that. Other countries, it's perfectly okay to not be thrilled to death all the time.
Right.
And in this country, for some reason, you're either thrilled to death and screaming with the smile on your face, or you're just this angry thing. And I think maybe things have changed in the last few years because everybody has to take a side now.
Right. Yeah.
So but that had been one of those things with the American optimism where the other people just say, it's kind of overwhelming because you're allowed to not be absolutely enthralled with every aspect of everything that you're doing in other countries.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of day-to-day life. You still have to live your life. Maybe this isn't the greatest thing that ever happened, but you still have to get through it. And you don't have to be smiling about it. It's just something you do. And that's something that I find is different in this here.
I think everyone focuses on, like we were saying, being happy, and where sometimes you just need to cry it out. Have a good cry, and you're like, oh, wow.
Okay, so now this is the last of the first 10 questions is the threshold. I think everybody has crossed the threshold at one point in their life, and it means there's no going back. So how did you know when you arrived there? How did it feel to cross it? What was the significance to you? What did you leave behind? What are you glad you left? And what do you regret leaving behind?
So my threshold was a moment that I look back at, which, I mean, okay, so it was when I got hired at HBO. I was previously working at Viacom, and at Viacom at MTV back in the MTV days, it was very youth oriented, and that's what I loved about the role over there, where I could be myself and play loud music and feel certain things and say certain things out loud. I also was younger, and I thought I knew how the world ran, and realized there's office politics, and there's ways of getting things done without, I wouldn't say being aggressive or throwing a fit or throwing a tantrum or whatever. So the moment was on my resume. One of the bullet points that I put on my resume was I was department eye candy. Because I thought, there was, especially like coming from an urban area, like there's this, you have to be proud of who you are and where you came from, right? So like RuPaul says, how are you going to love someone else if you don't love yourself, right? So I was always taught to love yourself. So, and I thought it showed my personality and how fun I was. So I put it in my resume, got interviewed and got a job at HBO. And my boss took the team out as an introductory lunch, and they wanted to get to know me a little better. And we went around and we shared. And my boss asked me, "Oh, on your resume, there's a bullet point that says that you were department eye candy. What does that mean?" So then I, of course, in a very fun way, told him, "Oh, I thought I was one of the most attractive people in the team, so I thought I'd just put that on my resume." She looked at me with horror and said, "Oh, I did not know that.
Really?
You should not tell anyone that." And I realized, oh, I have to be an adult.
Yeah, see, that's when you know.
And it's like, oh, yeah.
You can't get away with that.
No. And I realized you could be true to who you are, but when there's certain environments that you should be aware of, or let your personality flourish once you have the job, or once you're in the scenario and you can assess the situation, and you have to be an adult. And that's when I realized, oh, yeah.
Don't have to come guns blazing.
Guns blazing, yeah. And it's funny because I've had coordinators since. I've had people who report to me, and I see the youth in them. I see a lot of myself in these younger people, thinking they know it all and thinking they have life figured out. And I just look back and I'm like, oh, I regret that. I regret that bravado that we were talking about earlier, right? Which there are positives, but there's also that negative where it's like, oh, no. Yeah. Like,
you don't realize how you come across as being a fool because you're so young. But a lot of that stuff also carries you over and stuff that you're unsure of, because you have the youthful energy and exuberance and the nerve to do stuff. Also, you're just dumb as a rock. You don't even realize how obvious you are in front of everybody.
I know, you think you know it all. That to me is, I look back at it and I regret a lot on how I approach things, and in retrospect I would change it. So, yep, I mean, you live, you learn.
Yeah.
As Alanis Morissette says.
So, we've gone through the first 10 questions. Now we're going to go through the other 10 questions that you'd like to answer. And tell me, which ones would you...
Oh, no, just fire them out. I'll answer anything.
Okay.
I'm an open book for the most part.
Okay, let's see. What do others not know about you?
Others not know about me. I think that I care too much. I think.
Okay.
I think I worry about what other people, how they're feeling. So I hate when people throw the word empath around, because everyone says, "Oh, I'm an empath. I feel what other people feel." I do worry about how people feel in a scenario, and I think it's way too much. And I think a lot of people really don't care that much. But I do worry about other people way too much.
Okay, fair. Now here's another one I think is a good question. What did you grow up misperceiving? Song lyrics, geography, scientific fact, an aspect of human nature that you got wrong completely.
So I grew up in the Colombian household, and my parents told my siblings that we should talk amongst ourselves in English so we wouldn't have an accent, and we could talk to our parents in Spanish. So I never really sat down into a class on Spanish because it was always around the house and we always spoke it. My parents would make us read the Bible, in Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah, so never really sat down. Even in high school and in college, I would. I took French and Italian rather than taking Spanish because I thought it was a waste. So all my life, I would say nadie, which would mean nobody. But because that's what I would hear my parents say, nadie with an N. When in fact it was nadie without the N.
Okay.
So all my life I would say nadie, nadie, nadie. Until I would say maybe recently I said it, and my mom, who was a Spanish teacher in Colombia, she said, "There's no N." And I was just so appalled. And I looked at her and I said, "You let me live my life."
Yes, the whole time.
Saying this.
You're sparing my feelings, or just that it was comfortable, easy for you, or what, you know?
And it was just like, well, and she told me, she said, "Oh, we appreciated that you were speaking Spanish, and we didn't want to make you feel bad." I'm like, "No, this is where you correct me, so I don't make a fool out of myself." And another thing was sayings in English. I would talk to my cousins when we go to Colombia, and I'd translate sayings that you say in English. Like, I would tell my cousin, "Oh, so we're on the same page." In Spanish, it would be "Estamos en la misma página." And I would just say all these things, and one day my cousin looks at me and she goes, "You say odd things." And I would say, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "We're on the same page. That doesn't mean anything.
There's
here."
no cultural equivalent.
Right. So apparently we weren't on the same page.
But do you have a checklist you routinely follow? If so, in what context? Like business meeting, prep, chores, appearance, etc. Bruce has a thing. He has like money, watch, wallet, keys. I make sure I have everything.
Yep.
Is there a checklist that you do? That's the way you do things. Is there one, or is there a lot?
I mean, definitely the wallet, keys, and phone. I always do that check before I leave. I usually end it. I'm like, I have my wallet, keys, phone. That's all I need in life.
Most people say it's so similar.
That's all
it's
I
so
need in
funny.
life.
So consistent with so many other people.
And checklists, I mean, like when it comes to work, it's usually whatever arrives first. I'll get to it first. Of course, I'll prioritize if it's something an emergency. But I love my to-do lists.
Okay, so this is the other one I think is a good question too. What is the most grievous offense you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis from others? Gets into your skin. That is rudeness, sloppiness, carelessness, something you have no room for in your mental landscape. The thing that irks you, someone not closing the door, or repeatedly mispronouncing something, stuff like that. What's the thing? There's always one thing that gets under your skin. The grievous offense.
It's definitely being oblivious to other people is my biggest pet peeve. I cannot stand. I like someone walking down the street and just stopping and not thinking, "Oh, I may be in someone's way." Someone in the door, or not going through and just taking up space and not looking around and saying, "Oh, there's other people around me." Someone just cutting a line.
Inconsiderate.
That's my biggest. And my parents do it all the time, and there's no malintent, but just the idea of not thinking of other people irks me. I don't know why. Maybe it's the sociology side of me, but just being aware that there's a world out there, and you're not the priority always.
Yep, I completely agree with that one.
Yeah, help others. Think about other people.
Or also just get out of the way.
Right.
Okay, so here's a good one. What's your first goal when you interact with other people? The first thing you want to accomplish.
Connect. I think connecting with someone. When you go to LA, people usually ask, "Oh, what do you do?" That's the first question.
It means, are you a movie star?
Or I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say all people in LA, but in most scenarios. And I guess in New York, where do you live? So that kind of tells
Pretty much dictates what does he do,
Right. So I think or even when you meet someone at work and people will tell you, "Oh, I came from this and I did this and I've named people name drop." Or I think I want to connect with the person as who are you as a person. And I I usually can tell because I'll usually when I introduce myself I'll usually say my full name. I'll say Diogenes, and you will see how if people are invested because they'll ask again and they'll ask,
You say what your name is.
"Oh, what's your name?" or "How do you
And
pronounce
that's
that?" And that shows an interest. And if someone just says, "Oh, nice meeting you," I realize, oh, we're not gonna connect. So yeah, so
That's pretty perceptive.
yeah, it's a good way of judging people sometimes.
Okay. Let's see. If you could throw it all away and be a rock star, astronaut, movie star, firefighter, bartender in paradise, etc., what would you be? And why?
Oh, wait, what are the options? What number is this?
This is question. Where is it? 48.
So would I be a rock star, astronaut, movie star?
So, bartender in paradise. You just the thing that would give you the most satisfaction in life, the thing that would fulfill a fantasy.
Oh,
The thing that you want to do. If you could throw your entire life away to do this thing, what would it be, and why would you do it?
I would be a student.
Really?
I would go to, and I always say that it's like, oh, if I would win the lotto, I'd go to school to just learn about everything, anything that I vaguely had an interest in,
That's
and
great.
become like the subject matter expert on that. I'd be a full-time student because I
Okay.
think learning is it's great, and I think you should always strive to know more. The more you know.
Okay, here's another good question. Did you ever fake anything and either get away with it or just get caught and utterly destroyed?
Oh.
And you can't believe you got away with it, or like you're like, oh man, they got called on the carpet. You know it. You're faking. You lost. You lied, or something.
Oh, I feel like I've done this several times at work, where. Yeah, that's a good question. Have I faked anything? Oh, I think it was Photoshop.
Okay.
I think so. My resume, it's like, oh, that was the buzzword. Everyone was using Photoshop, and I was like, yeah, I could do Photoshop. Oh, it was Excel. I'm lying. It was Excel.
Okay.
On my resume, it's like Microsoft Office. I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do all that. And my first job out of college, I had to do a spreadsheet, and I basically was manually entering the same
In each cell.
in each cell. Like, say, I think it was a promo log. It was on-air promos, and I had to type the duration of the 30-second spot. And, it's Viacom. They're coming to pick me up because they found out I didn't know Excel. Yeah, and I would manually. It took me forever to do this spreadsheet, and my boss walked in and he's like, "Why is this taking you so long?" I was like, "Oh, because there's so many promos." And he goes, "Did you copy and paste this?" And he showed me how to copy and paste it on Excel, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
And you're busted.
Yep.
And
And I
you
was
just
like,
know you're not.
Yep.
Okay, that's a great one. Now here's another one. This is a great one, I think. What is it? Is there anything that comes effortlessly to you, which is considered impressive to others? Gary said he can draw, and people go, wow, they're like, and you can draw people, not just landscapes or still lifes. He can draw people, and he doesn't like being the center of attention while he's doing it. He likes being the center of attention after he's done it, but it's one of those things that people are impressed with. You have a skill that people didn't know that you could do, and it's just one of those things, wow, I didn't know, or you're good at that. Other people are just impressed with.
I think it's just connecting with people, going back with what I strive with. And I think people are surprised that people like me, and I also am surprised when people like me. I think I'm
Why?
personable.
I think you are too.
Yeah, and I don't know. I never really thought about it, but I think people are impressed with my people skills. Um,
I think
but
you
I
have
think we're all just, we're here on this earth for a limited time. Let's make the best out of it. So I think that's my approach.
Okay, here's another one. Is there anything you shun?
I shun.
You just will not do it. You will not consume it. You will not partake. You will not. You won't have anything. You just don't want. Like you won't smoke a cigar. You won't trash talk certain people. You won't get involved in something that's physical at a certain level that's gross, or what was something you just won't do.
Right. I don't think I would take any intravenous drugs, like needles and
Okay, there
any
you go.
type of eh, anything that might ruin my body.
Okay, very good.
I witnessed someone having a heart attack, and the doctor kept asking, "Did you take Did you take coke? Have you done cocaine?" And the person was like, "No, no." And I realized I'm like, why does he keep asking it? It's like, oh, because that's apparently really bad for your heart.
Yes, it
you
is.
know? And then watching someone go through that, I realized, oh, those hard drugs. I mean, marijuana is fine. It's natural, right? But anything that could really fuck up your system, I
Something that's been synthesized,
exactly. Alcohol is fine.
been around for
Right,
forever.
that's fine.
So my last question, and this is
Okay.
the one I think is a good one.
All right.
What is your most treasured possession? I'll tell you, Garrett had a great one last night, and it was really interesting.
My most treasured possession. Oh, that's really difficult because I try not to attach myself to material things.
But there's got to be something that you have, that you've had. Look, Garrett, he has a horseshoe. He's had his whole life. It's the first thing he puts up when he moves in someplace. It's the last thing he takes out, and he loves it so much he has a tattoo of it on his right arm.
Wow.
So he'll always have it as an avatar, an icon for what it was. And then I showed him. Bruce gave me. I have a bracelet which is a coppered horseshoe nail that goes around your wrist. And he's like, "That's so funny you mentioned that." But that was that. He has that. That's just one thing. He goes, because I'm not superstitious in any sense, but I still have this all the time. That's the one thing I have. It's like it's this thing. It's a security blanket or something.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna say nothing.
Nothing. You don't have a security blanket. You don't.
No. Besides, a phone.
No. The thing you love, something that it's your personal thing.
Right. No, I mean, like, the idea of just having something that plays music is the most important thing for me.
Okay.
I remember back before iPhones were a thing, and there were Discman where you play CDs.
Yes.
If I forgot my MP3 player at the time, on my ride to work, I'd stop at a store to buy a CD player or buy something that I could listen to music to on my way to work.
Wow.
So just having the ability to listen to music is the most important thing for me.
There you go. So music is
my thing.
your appreciation of music too.
Oh my god, yeah, you need it. It's helped me through good times and bad times.
There you go.
And so yeah, I have to have a way to listen to music.
So that's a treasured possession. Having something that means so much to you.
Yeah.
That's what it means to me.
Yeah. Music, I think, is brings the people together. It brings the bourgeoisie and the rebel.
It's the common denominator.
That was a Madonna reference.
Was it?
That was an awful joke.
I was funny. I've been on this thread on Facebook because I belong to a group, Manhattan Before 1990. I belong to a bunch of these groups. They show photographs and different things. And they had a photo of the Holiday Lounge at St. Mark's Place. 75 St. Mark's Place?
Yeah.
You ever go?
No, but I know the reference.
I used to go in the 80s with my friend Bootsy and his wife.
Collins?
He used to listen to Bootsy's Rubber Band all the time, and that was his nickname because he listened to Bootsy, Palmer Funkadelic and Bootsy Collins all the time.
Amazing.
And he was called Bootsy, Captain Bootsy. He was a high school captain of his basketball team,
I love it.
and everybody called him Bootsy. And so we were Bootsy. He was my pal. So we would go there all the time, and when I started going there, it was all, like I was telling everybody, it was all 10X rainbow mohawks and kilts and Doc Martens up to your knees.
Amazing.
And leather jackets in 85 degrees, And it'd be swarmed with them. And they're the nicest people. They didn't mean anything. There was nothing intimidating. And it turns out that that's the holiday that inspired Madonna's song Holiday.
Amazing.
Yes. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you soon with another episode. As the boys and girls say, peace out.
Bye.
Thanks again, DJ.